Some breaking news coming in at this stage. In a very important decision, the government has decided, the Home Ministry, that the movement of persons, despite the lockdown which is presently in place in the country, will be allowed. This involves migrant workers, pilgrims, tourists, students and other persons who are stranded at different places. They would be allowed to move. Now, this is a breakaway from what the government has decided earlier on, where it was policy that wherever migrants or tourists or others were, they would stay over there in the interests of trying to prevent the spread of the coronavirus. But now, all states and union territories should designate nodal authorities and develop standard protocols. Sunil Prabhu joins us now for more on this. Sunil, I would assume that it will take some time before the rules through which this process can take place are implemented on the ground. It's not a question of just putting people on buses and allowing them to move, because there is a set of procedures which has been announced as well.
Well, Vishnu, if you read between the lines, I think this comes in the backdrop of three important points. Of course, the chief ministers who had met the prime minister on Monday and really asked him to address this issue. There's been, of course, a political demand, apart from lakhs of people who are facing a lot of hardship. If you read between the lines again, it says migrant workers, pilgrims, tourists, students, and other persons that are stranded. So basically, it means the entire country, those who are stranded, who want to get back to their homes, that they will facilitate. They have to register. There has to be a way forward. There has to be some coordination between state to state, and there should be a transition in that backdrop. But definitely, this paves the way for interstate movement, which had been stopped for a long time, even though the buses will have to be sanitized. They will have to go through the normal quarantine rules. But this is a huge sign of relief for migrant labor, in particular, people who are walking to their homes. Those horrific stories we saw of people being sprayed inadvertently, if one may be permitted. This is the final, what one would say, giving in within the central government of understanding the hardships that people have faced in various districts across this country. And that is the reason why the government of India, through the MHA, has finally given one more new order to allow virtually everybody who wants to get back to their home to move in sanitized buses.
Sunil, isn't it also true that in the Supreme Court, the government had argued just a few days back that they were discouraging the process of people moving from place to place? So this obviously means that position in the Supreme Court would be reversed. It would be infructuous.
Of course, definitely, Vishnu. In fact, if you see the first argument on the first, when it first came up in the Supreme Court, at that time it was very clear and categorical at that stage that the Supreme Court was, no less than the Solicitor General had made a very clear statement that, nearly one third of the people were affected. If you see that argument which he made, which was, of course, subsequently asked for notices and everything else. So we have gone a long way from there. Now, of course, the government of India, after taking assessment after 30 days, understands that people want to go back. And it's in that backdrop that they have gone ahead with this decision.
All of these points over here, I'm just reading out that same letter that you've been referring to. All states and union territories should designate nodal authorities and develop standard protocols for receiving and sending such stranded people. The nodal authorities shall also register the stranded people within their states and union territories. So obviously responsibility for the movement lies on various state governments. They would presumably need to liaise with each other in terms of bringing back people. So that's part of the process, right, Sunil?
Absolutely. That's part of the process. That's what's been happening with the students from Kota in particular, which had really got national attention for when they wanted to go to UP. And now, of course, they're planning to go to Bihar and various into Bengal. So that's part of the entire exercise. There has to be, in a public health emergency, a protocol that is followed. And that is why, as I said, it will have to be state to state, where each UT or state speaks to each other, coordinates with each other. Okay. There is a registration process so that all and sundry are not put onto that bus. People who can be identified, checking can take place, and keeping that social distancing norms that are in practice, because this is not an easy task. India is a country of 1.3 billion people, and as I said, lakhs of people want to go from state to state, either back home, migrant labor in particular, others who have been stranded, and in other cases, students who want to go back. And it's in that context